Hello everyone, I welcome you all to the second part of my lecture series on centrifugal compressors. So today we will discuss width of impeller blades. We'll start with the width of impeller blades. Now it's denoted by the letter B. Now the general equation is Q is equal to pi d B into Vf, where d is the diameter of the impeller, P is the width of the impeller, and Vf is the velocity of flow. Now we'll just modify this equation. We know m dot Q is equal to m dot by rho, where m dot is the mass flow rate, and we'll convert density into specific volume. So we'll modify this equation as m dot is equal to pi d1 b1 into Vf1 by small v1. So we'll get the width of blade as this. And if you're going to consider the thickness of the blades, that is, if n is the number of blades and t is the thickness, the effective flow area becomes pi d1 minus nt into b1. So finally, this becomes the equation on the last line. M dot v1 divided by pi d1 minus nt into vf1. So next is isentropic efficiency of a compressor. We'll discuss that. So before discussing the isentropic efficiency of the compressor, I want you to understand, or I want you to assume that there are two cases. Assume that there are two cases for the compression process inside a compressor. Now, first case is the actual compression process, in which all the losses will be considered. It is an irreversible process. Whereas in the second case, what we do is we'll consider the compression process to be isentropic. That means the process will be reversible. Now, isentropic efficiency is the work input during isentropic process divided by the actual work input. This ratio will give you the isentropic efficiency. Now, the losses considered in the case 1 are the friction between moving air and the impeller blades, shock at entry, and turbulence caused in air. Now, due to all these losses, the work input during the actual compression process will be obviously more. Whereas in the case of an isentropic compression, the work required is comparatively less. You can easily understand that from this particular graph. The line 1, 2 dash is the isentropic line. That means we are not considering the losses, and we are assuming that the compression takes place isentropically. Now 1, 2 is the compression process, which considers all the losses. It is the actual compression process. Now the area under this graph, this blue line is actually the increase in work rate due to friction, shock and turbulence, and the red part shows the increase in work due to increase in volume. Clear? So clearly the work done during isentropic process is less than the actual work input. Now I'll explain the equation. We'll go to the next page. So this is the equation for isentropic efficiency. Isentropic work input required by actual work input required. So the isentropic work input can be found out using the equation HO2 dash minus HO1, and actual work input is H2 minus H1, that is MCP TO2 minus TO1. So isentropic efficiency, we can write it as TO2 dash minus TO1 by TO2 minus TO1. Clear? So this, and if the inlet and outlet velocity of the air is same, then the stagnation temperature will be equal to static temperature. I've already explained that before in the previous class, how it becomes equal. So finally, if the velocities are equal, we can write the isentropic equation to be like this: T2 dash minus T1 by T2 minus T1. The next is the degree of reaction. So degree of reaction is actually the ratio of static pressure rise inside the impeller to total static pressure rise inside the centrifugal compressor. So impeller by compressor, just remember that. The static pressure rise in the impeller is given by the equation VR1 square minus VR2 square by 2 plus U2 square minus U1 square by 2. In this, the first term VR1 minus VR2 the whole square is actually the pressure rise taking place due to diffusion of air. Diffusion of air. That means the impeller has a divergent shape, right? So when air goes through it, its velocity decreases according to continuity equation, and this decrease in velocity is actually made up by increase in pressure. So that is why VR2 will be less than VR1. So that pressure rise is given by VR1 square minus VR2 square by 2, and this part is actually due to centrifugal action. Centrifugal action. So you know U is equal to pi dn by 60, right? And D2 is greater than D1. So U2 is greater than U1. So this U2 square minus U1 square by 2 will give you the centrifugal action. Sorry, not the centrifugal action, the pressure rise due to centrifugal action. Clear? So VR1 square minus VR2 square is pressure rise due to diffusion action, and U2 square minus U1 square is pressure rise due to centrifugal action of the impeller. So I hope you are clear with that. Now next is the total pressure rise in the compressor. Total pressure rise in the compressor is actually given by BW to U2, that is equal to the work input. You already know that work input required to compress the air. We have derived this in the previous lecture. So the final equation of DOR becomes this. Now we'll modify this equation and arrive into the final form. So we have drawn the inlet triangle as well as the outlet velocity triangle. So from the inlet velocity triangle, we will write VF1 square is equal to VR1 square minus U1 square. Keep that in mind. That is the second equation. And from the second velocity triangle, I mean outlet velocity triangle, we will get VF2 square is equal to VR2 square minus U2 minus VW2 the whole square. This is equation 3. Now we also know that for the centrifugal compressor, VF1 is equal to VF2. So we can equate these two equations, that is 2 and 3. So VR1 square minus U1 square is equal to VR2 square minus U2 minus VW2 the whole square. Next step, what you'll do is we'll expand this equation. This is A minus B the whole square, right? So it becomes U2 square plus VW2 square minus 2U2 VW2, and we'll rearrange the whole equation and we'll arrive in this equation, and we'll rearrange it and write it in two terms. So we'll need to substitute this expression's value, this one, in the equation of DOR, and you'll get the final equation as DOR is equal to 1 minus VW by 2U2. Clear? So next is slip and slip factor. So you already know that in the case of centrifugal compressors, alpha is 90 degree, right? So alpha is 90 degree because the air enters radially. Imagine what happens if if the air leaves radially to in the outlet. That becomes phi will be equal to 90. So when phi becomes equal to 90, VW2 becomes equal to U2. So that means work done per kilogram of air becomes, or the input work becomes, U2 square. So the centrifugal compressor has maximum work input when VW2 is equal to U2, right? Understand that. Now slip can be defined as the difference between U2 and VW2. It's the difference between impeller blade velocity at outlet and whirl velocity at the outlet. Similarly, the ratio of these two terms, that is the actual whirl component by ideal whirl component U2, this will give you the slip factor. So I hope you got an idea about today's class. If you have any doubts, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.